What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Early Apex. I'm Rob, and this is Dylan, and we got a lot of fun stuff in store for you guys today. A lot of techie, nerdy, in the weeds, kind of great stuff.
You bet.
So to kick that off, we're talking about why modern cars look the way they do. A lot of modern styling cues have nothing to do with a good-looking car or how the concept car looked or any of that. It's because of safety. It's because of engineering constraints. It's because of aerodynamics. And there's a ton of them. You start to think, you start to think, designers are really taking this rule book and then figuring out okay, what can we do within these constraints? It's like designing a classed race car. It's not starting from a clean sheet ever.
You're really having to stay between the lines. I know we've talked about this on our own, but we haven't gotten into great detail here. So I'm curious to see what all these specifics are. It sounds like there's more than I'm even aware of.
Oh yeah. There's tons. All right, so I'm gonna just kick it off here. Flat fender arches. Okay, so to describe this, and if you're on YouTube, you'll see the photo, the graphic we do, but I'm talking about right where the wheel arch is, right where it trails, stops right there, go into the wheel. They're flat, 1 or 2 inches of just totally flat against the wheel, sheet metal. Go look at your car outside. If you have a car that was made in the last 20 years, I guarantee has a flat wheel arch. And this is every car. This is a Camry. This is a Lamborghini. Every car. Maybe I'm sure you could find a hypercar or two, but really every car that goes into any sort of production has these flat wheel arch faces.
Why?
Yeah. All right. Give me a guess. Give me a guess, Dylan.
Okay. It's funny that you say that. So I'm thinking about my Focus. I definitely know exactly the area you're talking about. Why would they not just have the flare continued on? I can't imagine it has anything to do with aerodynamics, because if it was an aerodynamic thing, you'd probably have some shapes that it would work on and other shapes that it wouldn't work on.
Okay. Very astute.
I don't think it's aero. It's got to be some really silly... Is it some side impact thing or what? What's going on? What's going on here? Why does every car need this?
Yeah. I mean, and every single car.
Why does every single car need this?
It's just it's strength and manufacturability. That's it. So apparently, right, in a flat piece of sheet metal, a crease is going to make it significantly stronger.
Yeah.
So there's one, right? You put the crease all around the wheel arch. Now you just have a stronger wheel arch that is going to protect against dents and dings a bit better.
Okay.
And the other part, the other part, right? When you stamp the sheet metal, it's much easier to stamp that face flat than it is to try and stamp it with some sort of curve going on.
Yeah. I never thought of manufacturing driving a lot of these reasons. I'm always thinking either regulation or aero, but that makes a lot of sense to have a crease in there. It's shocking that it's nearly every car. Interesting reason.
And to speak about manufacturability, look at the shapes, especially on bumpers, of a modern car versus a 30, 40-year-old car. Look how complex the shapes on modern cars are compared to those cars, because manufacturability. Now we're dealing with plastic bumpers. You can just make a mold. You have a lot more flexibility with that plastic mold. Whereas if you're doing with stamped steel or other manufacturing processes, it's way tougher to get these complex shapes. So you can thank those busy bumpers we were complaining about last time on that.
Yeah, we're kind of having the behind the scenes here right now from our previous episode about the best looking. Actually, the past two episodes we were talking about the best looking cars, modern cars of the past 10 years, and the worst looking cars of the past 10 years. So yeah, this is kind of the behind the scenes that's shaping a lot of those decisions. That's interesting. What else? What else you got?
Okay. All right. So, right going from the wheel arches, and now we're at the wheels. Okay.
Okay.
We've got we've got no deep dish wheels anymore. All wheels,
sad thing.
Flat face, right?
Yeah.
We're very, remiss to see them all gone. We've got no dished wheels from the factory on like any car. And I was really expecting this to be something to do with aero. And I had actually heard Chris Harris say that it had something to do with curb strikes, like a safety thing, some safety standard tests.
Okay.
But really what I could find that drove this, and this really also makes the most sense to me, is it's suspension engineering.
Oh, so it's like suspension geometry. They don't want the wheels reaching out that much farther away from... Interesting.
So, all right. So firstly, scrub radius. That's like the most important thing. That's what it's all about.
I was going to say, because what I'm just explaining, you could just change with offset. It doesn't really matter. Right.
So scrub radius is when you turn your steering wheel, does the wheel spin like a coin on a desk, or is it, going around this pivot point that's inside or outside of the wheel? So if you turn the wheel, does the wheel spin as it moves, or is it just kind of stationary, spinning in place? And what you want, or what modern car designers aim for, is zero scrub radius.
Okay.
The benefit being that if you have a negative scrub or a positive scrub radius, where the theoretical center of that's rotation happens inside of the wheel, that means that when you brake and torque is being like applied to the wheels, that it's going to yank the wheel out of your hand. And if you've ever driven like an older car with wide wheels, you know that feeling. I know we know that feeling.
I know that feeling all too well.
That scrub radius.
Coming to a stop. Yeah.
And it's like feedback in a way, when you hit a pothole, when you hit a bump, like if there's that, lever arm on the wheel, it's going to pull that wheel back and thus yank on the steering.
Yeah.
And so that's giving you all that kind of sometimes unwanted bump steer, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're looking for, they being the engineers, they're looking to create a suspension geometry where the wheel is essentially rotating on an axis, like the globe, right? It's straight through the wheel. It's rotating perfectly on center. Whereas with this scrub radius that you're explaining, it's kind of rotating. Oh, it's not really rotating around in like a circle. It's kind of rotating like a pivot. It's pivoting on like the back or like the front of the wheel, and it's not truly rotating evenly.
Exactly.
Thus, like the scrub. Interesting.
Yeah.
And then the dish adds to that problem.
Right. It kind of makes it impossible to have a dished wheel. And then with, brakes getting even bigger, you got to stuff a brake in there. So you've got to make room for, your spindle and your big brakes, and then still have a wheel face. And you end up with a lot of flat wheel faces instead of any sort of dish. Yeah.
Because you need a lot of space behind the wheel. Behind that dish.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are cars you can buy today with bigger brakes than our Miatas.
Yeah.
So you got to fit all that behind the wheel, and that really doesn't. Yeah,
and even on on the rear suspension, there's still many benefits to like either elongating the suspension arms or whatever you have back there, or just moving that whole assembly outboard, so that you have more room on the interior for, cargo space. So, you end up just pushing the wheel face out as far as you can to gain all that space back. And what I found was interesting, the reason why cars used to have this, it wasn't just because they were idiots and weren't thinking about scrub radius.
Okay.
Although they might have been. It's older, before rack and pinion steering. So rack and pinion's like basically you steer the wheel, and it spins a gear, and that gear is attached to a bar that also has a gear on it, and that bar is rack. That's rack and pinion. So that means that when you push on the steering, it will also spin the steering wheel. So if you grab a wheel and you start to spin it, it's not too hard, right? Because it'll spin the wheel. That's rack and pinion.
Okay.
Older cars, we're talking like 1930s here. They had what's called ball and nut steering, which essentially replaces the gear on gear interface and uses a worm gear. So a gear and a worm gear. And of course, you know anything about worm gears, the gear can spin the worm fine, but you can't get the other way around. If you try and, you know, push against that worm, you know, as you would with, you know, the tie rods pushing in on it, it's not just going to spin the gear. And they did this because you get like a good torque multiplier before power steering so that your steering was easy. But it meant you had absolutely no steering feel and also no return the center. Like the wheels just wouldn't return the center because they can't
driving a tractor.
Yeah, you're driving a tractor basically. And so one of the things they do to kind of combat the total lack of feel that you got with the system was you'd have much deeper dish wheels that gave you a large scrub radius, and that amount of torque was enough to give you a little bit of steering feel and also return the steering back a bit.
So it was actually, they were using that offset as part of their return to center steering.
Exactly. So it was part of the design. And sort of as we moved away from that, we've moved away from deep dish wheels. I mean, you can also think solid rear axles and stuff like that, you know, as we go to total, you know, independent rear suspension, all that, you push, you make the assembly more complex and you need more room for it. So,
well, all I know, Rob, is that I lust over a set of Watanabes, so I'm just gonna lean all the way in on that scrub radius.
Just rip that steering wheel right out your hand.
I want those Watanabes, baby. So what else? What else we got?
What else we got? All right, I got one more big one for you.
Okay. I think I might know what it is.
All right.
Let's hear it.
Have you ever seen a modern Chevy Camaro?
Absolutely. I knew we were going here. I knew it. Yes.
I think anyone who's seen a modern Chevy Camaro, immediately the thing that comes to mind when you say styling is the fact that you're looking through like a slit. You've got it's
in
like
a jail cell.
Yeah, you're in a jail cell. The windows start like above your shoulders. They're so high.
Yes.
And you cannot see out of this thing. So again, not driven by styling. There is a part of the Beltline driven by styling. I'll get to that, but this is one totally driven by the greatest enemy of all great sports cars, which is trucks and SUVs.
Really? What? How is a truck or they're not sharing a platform? How is this impacting?
It's all about those impacts. It's all about impact zones. It's all about crash standards. It's bumper
everything
heights.
is getting so big.
It's bumper heights. So as bumper heights get a bit higher, hood heights get higher, you've got to protect your passengers from the bumper just going right through your window. So now you need more sheet metal up higher to stop that from happening.
Okay.
And that's pretty much about as simple as that. It's crash safety. You encase yourself in a bunch of metal. It's safer than glass.
It's safer. Yeah. And then that's also probably why doors are so tall today.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's sharing that door line. Now another styling cue is that sloped belt line. So if you look at an older car, E30, right? The belt line, you know, which is when we talk about belt line, guys are just talking about where the window meets the door, essentially. That line
I was about
across,
to ask about that.
That's the belt line. It's just like where where the glass stops and the metal starts.
Okay, on the side of the car. Got it.
You know, pretty much all modern cars have an upward slope going from the front to the back. It's sloping upwards, and that's a design choice. That makes the car kind of look like it's going faster when it's standing still. It gives it the illusion of being a wedge. I think the easiest car to see that would probably be the Range Rover Evoques. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of.
Okay.
And if you look at those, you can really see how the glass narrows and it's makes it look like the thing is more wedge shaped when it's really just a box.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it's a floating roof, is that what it's called? Where the roof and everything above that belt line is black. Right.
That can also kind of give you the illusion of a shorter vehicle or a more slender vehicle. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, this is pretty cool. So there's definitely a lot of things that are shaping, pun intended, the way vehicles look today. And I remember a comment from an older family member. It was actually in Sierra's family, how they were saying the front ends of every car look like a truck. And I think really what they're picking up on isn't so much the look itself, but it's the shape and the height.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's so tall.
Yeah. And flat.
Flat.
It's got to be flat. And that's another crash safety one. If you've got bumpers that protrude, I don't know, they break your ankles, they I don't know what they do, but they kill pedestrians apparently.
They're not good, Rob.
Yeah, so if you've got a big
they're not good.
Not good. Which you look at any new car.
And said, no.
It's the front of it's basically flat, and there's no like protruding surfaces for the most part. It's overall just like a big flat thing. You look at like Audis, I would say that's a pretty, especially 2000 like 5 to 15 Audis, like they had really flat kind of, but that a lot of that's coming from that crash safety stuff.
I really feel like they leaned into it too with their design of that time, right? The grill, straight up and down grill, kind of similar to BMW in a way, but yeah, that's a very vertical.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I mean, and there's tons more. We haven't even done any aero ones yet.
Oh, so, really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll give you one, right? So,
okay. Yeah, let's do it. It's
Teslas. Okay.
Okay.
All Teslas basically have a similar shape.
Yep.
And I think the one most interesting design feature is the hard crease on the trunk. So they all have a hard crease right where the top of the trunk makes a 90-degree turn to go down and go into the bumper. And that is an aero choice because if you look at any Tesla from the side, it's a really smooth profile, kind of like teardropped. You're like, okay, that's aerodynamic, right? It looks aerodynamic. It's intuitive, and it's all smooth surfaces. So the air is attached. It's attached to the hood, the windshield, the roof, the rear glass, the trunk lid. Everything is a smooth, not too sharp bends. The air is staying attached. And then once it hits that crease, what you want for higher aerodynamic efficiency is the air to immediately detach and not create turbulence there. So if you did kind of like a weird slope off or something, you're actually going to end up with the air kind of like trying to stay attached but not being able to, and you get a lot of turbulence through doing that. So if you just do a hard cutoff,
hard edge,
that gives you, it detaches to the air more effectively, and you don't get that turbulence there.
So it's acting like the crease is essentially acting like a small little spoiler.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's not a wing. Obviously, wings are for downforce. Spoilers are for ending the airflow over a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, look at like a land speed car, and they've got those big spoilers coming off the back of them, just like big pieces of sheet metal that just end, but they're totally flat. You can see they're not creating any downforce for it.
Yep.
But they're also elongating the car, so you're making a more stable car for land speed. But you've got that hard detachment point, and it makes it slip through the air a bit better.
Interesting.
So there you go.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, comment down below on any other things that you know of that are shaping these cars. It definitely sounds like you've stumbled across a lot of other things too, Rob. You could go on about this topic.
I appreciate having this platform to just talk about all the stuff that no one else wants to listen to. So
no, this is definitely interesting because it is one of those things where I knew that the canvas is not blank for car designers of today. The canvas almost has a shape that it needs to be within, whether it's for aero or for regulations, or I hadn't thought of this, manufacturing.
Yeah, manufacturing is a big one for sure. So
I should know better than that, being in engineering sales and working in manufacturing myself. So I should have known. Anyway, yeah, let us know what other interesting things you know of that are shaping design language of today.
all right, Dylan. So I want to spew some more opinions and thoughts. So give me these FMK cars. What have we got today?
Okay, so I've been wanting to do a segment like this. We haven't done this yet before. I wanted to choose a car that only ever had 3 generations. So this is the same car.
Okay.
But 3 versions of the car.
Wow. Another high concept. Every time you're taking, I'm like inside this little tiny box, and you're just like way out there with this really high conceptual stuff. Jeez. All right.
So what I chose, I feel like we've kind of danced around these cars a little bit. We've been doing this for a couple times now. So we're going to start having some similarities come up on this segment. But of these 3 generations, the U.S. only got 1, the last generation.
Okay. Ooh, let's see if I can go for it.
We have bits and pieces of the other 2, and the company that it's from is Ford. Any idea?
Okay. We only got the last.
Yep, we only got the last generation,
and it's Ford badged.
It's Ford. Oh yeah, it's Ford.
It's Ford badged. Oh God.
Yep. It's okay if you don't get it.
I mean, I'm thinking of cars we didn't get here. Like we missed out on some like ST stuff. Focus RS.
You got it.
It's the Focus RS.
I'm going to stop. I'm going to just it's Focus RS.
Okay. I mean, that's got to be like the only car they were selling abroad and not here.
Yeah, well, because we got bits and pieces of the first 2. You even owned kind of I would say like the cheapest version or cheaper version of MK1.
Come on. SVT, that's an incredible brand right there.
That's true. That's true. It was the SVT, so it was not the cheapest. So I'll walk you through the specs of each one.
Okay.
So the MK1 that we did not get, this was a 4-cylinder turbo. It is a great looking car. You got a pretty good looking car yourself with the SVT. It was the best one that you could get in the States. But this was a turbocharged 4-cylinder car. It did 0 to 60. Not the quickest car. 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds.
Is this front wheel drive or all wheel?
This is front wheel.
Okay.
Thank you for jumping on that. Front wheel drive. It had not gone all wheel drive yet. All wheel drive didn't come around until the last generation. But it's a turbocharged car. The most consistent horsepower stats I could find was 215 and 228. So definitely not very high horsepower. However, the curb weight pretty light, 2,800 pounds.
Okay.
So it's well under 3,000. Yeah, well under 3,000 pounds. And the first 2 are like this. And it's a 2-door, which is pretty sweet.
Ooh,
it's pretty small.
The 2-door is, and that's why my SVT Focus, such a beautiful, timeless egg shape. It's a 2-door.
Yeah.
The 2-door.
5-speed manual, so it didn't have 6-speed yet. So definitely a little older of a car, but still a modern engine, 16 valve, redlined at 55, not redlined, but max peak power was at 5,500 RPM. Torque was down at 35, so pretty solid car. I feel like this kind of engine specs are pretty common in today's marketplace, right? Like a lot of like the mid-tier turbocharged stuff, like the Civic Sportback that's turbocharged is kind of similar to this. So that's the first gen, and it's going to be the classic Ford blue is what we're going to do here.
Okay.
So let me send you the photos now, and those links should all work for you. So that's the first gen. Now the second gen, we also didn't get this gen. It was a 2-door as well, but this is where the RS started to get wild. It is going to be in a lime green, which is the launch color. This car has got hood louvers on it. It's got a big front mount intercooler from the factory. And it has the power to back up. It's even got a big wing. It's got the power to back it up. This is a 300 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque.
Ooh, this is one I remember.
Yeah.
I remember like seeing it in car magazines. My cousins all live in England, and so I had went over there and gotten like their like Top Gear magazines and stuff. And like, you know, this was like the cover car.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, you know, like back in the day, we'd always like, oh man, America never gets any of the cool cars, you know? And this is definitely one of them.
There's some other really cool things about this car too. So this was actually not a 4-cylinder. This was a 5-cylinder.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Right? Like, we never got a 5-cylinder Ford anything here in the States that I'm aware of.
No.
It's substantially faster. You know, this is now a 5.4 second 0 to 60 and a 13.8 in the quarter. So it's a quick car, 6-speed. And I also remember, I don't have the specs in front of me for this specifically, but I know that this is really when front-wheel drive suspension was really getting trick to prevent the torque steer. Right. I think this is one of the first 300 horsepower front-wheel drive cars. I mean, this is back in 2009 that this is coming out, I believe. So yeah, this is like older technology, but very modern numbers. That's still a lot of power in a front-wheel drive car today.
That's a ton. And I do remember them writing up about this like trick suspension that was in it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so really cool car, crazy
color. And again,
color.
front-wheel drive.
And again, yeah, because that's why they were doing the crazy trick suspension. But 5-cylinder, how crazy is that? 5-cylinder. Oh, last
so
thing.
What is the 5-cylinder from? What was that from?
I don't know. Dual overhead cam, 20 valve, 5-cylinder, aluminum block. That's what I'm seeing here. I don't know what else it was in. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we got any car in the States with that engine.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the other thing? Oh, curb weight. It did get substantially heavier, though. Still not crazy heavy, especially by today's standards, but a little over 3,200 pounds, 3,250.
Oh, yeah, so definitely gained some weight.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, and that all to bed. Now we come to the last generation, the last RS, the only one we've got here in the States. I actually own like the very cheap version of this car. I can't even really say that it is. I have a Focus, right? But this is a 4-door, you know, much larger car, all-wheel drive. It is a 4-cylinder, but it's a 2.3, 350 horsepower, 350 foot-pounds of torque, 6-speed manual. Definitely like a quick car. Let me see if I've got that down here. And this is also going to be in the nitrous blue.
Nitrous blue. That is my favorite color for this one. I mean, this is a car, you know, we know well because it's American production. It's a USDM car. Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a car I've always loved. You know, I've always thought they're great looking. It's a shame now they don't make them and they cost way too much money on the used market because I would definitely have one if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the 0 to 60 specs. Here we go. I believe, this looks right. 4.7. So again, another big step in speed. So this is almost like a second per generation faster. I'm looking up for the quarter mile real quick. So what are your first impressions here of this different kind of 13.4? So
I'm not. It's all about the feel for me, Dylan. I'm not even worried about these numbers.
These numbers mean nothing to you.
They mean nothing.
Okay.
I'm a purist.
Okay. You know, so Mr. Purist, what do you think?
This is tough because they are all so similar. And just like, you know, the newest Focus is, I'm sure, going to be like the most reliable, easiest to get parts for, you know. So that makes me want to marry it. But then that first gen one, that's the same gen that my SVT Focus was from.
The nostalgia.
It really like wasn't a great looking car back then. It's still a very cool car, but not a great looking car. And then I think there's something about that Mark II that is just so like
That's
unobtainium here, you know, and it's like if you know, you know, and it's got that cool. It's a 2-door, which I love. 2-door hatches are the coolest. Everyone knows, and it's like that sloped back with the spoiler.
Yep.
It's got those like 11-spoke wheels, which are super like rally and cool. Yeah,
it's a wild car. It's
And
definitely the wildest of the 3.
I'm seeing some green seats.
Yo, you got some. Yeah, you're seeing right, bud.
Part
You're seeing
two.
right. Some paint matched seats.
I mean, now
Green
that is wild. Yeah, and they're the Recaros, so they're awesome. Oh, those are literally just podiums. I'm pretty sure that's the Recaro motto, but they're literally a Recaro model you could go just buy off the shelf. But I mean, they're amazing seats. They're perfect. That's what.
Yeah.
That was the right choice. Okay. Dylan, I want that every day. I want to be in the Mark II every day. It's going to be reliable enough. The 5-cylinder, I'm sure, sounds amazing.
Dude, you're going to have people breaking their necks.
Yeah, in the US, like, what?
Yeah.
I've never seen one in the US. Like I've seen some other stuff. I don't know. Like I've seen a Nissan Pulsar here, like the GTIR. Like I've seen a few things. Never seen one of these here. And no one even thinks about them. Like Americans don't even like, they forgot that this existed and this is such a cool car.
Yeah.
That's what I want every day.
Cool. Okay. All right. That's wild. Let's do it. I can see it. I can see it.
5-cylinder, so cool. I mean, I know the 5-cylinder sound from the Audi RS line, and those obviously, like everyone knows, those are sweet. So yeah.
It's a unique experience all the way around with that car for sure, especially here in the States.
Absolutely. And then I think I'm going to take one drive in the original Mark I because again, it's just like a car you'd never get to drive otherwise. And I have the nostalgia of my old SVT. And I remember it being like such a great handling front wheel drive car. So much fun. And
you get that plus turbo,
plus RS-ness, plus, you know, that like extra edge. So I'm sure it's a great car to drive. I just want to know what that's like. And I feel like, man, but you know what? The new Focus RS is like the drift mode. Oh, I forgot about that. I kind of want to drift an all-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Wait. All right. I'm changing my answer. I'm changing it. First time ever, I'm changing it. I want the one drive in the new Focus RS because I'm just gonna like. I want it with full tires, and I'm going to return it with just no tire, like past the tread wear markers. It's just going to be on the cords.
Dude.
That's what I'm going to do.
That's
what I'm going to do. I'm also probably going to take it like on a rally stage that's just like gravel parking lots. Like when this car is returned, it is going to look like I'm going to total it. I'm gonna total the car.
It's not making it.
Like
your
we're
mission
drifting,
is to not
we're rally racing. The bumpers aren't going to be there. It's going to be leaking coolant.
Destroyed. Love it. Okay, that's awesome. I really can't fault your thinking. I'll add a couple little bits before I make a reveal. I really like the first gen look. However, I think a lot of people would just think you're driving around in an ST here in the States. Not that that's or as an SVT, excuse me, and not that that's a bad thing.
I just think you're driving around a goddamn Beetle Focus,
or that, especially in the right angle. You know, I really
honestly,
like the look,
I swear, I think the SVT looks a little better. Like
interesting.
I mean, the only difference is the front bumper, but I think the bumper just looks better on the SVT. Yeah,
interesting. That second gen, that MK2. With the 5-cylinder for me puts it over the top. I'm not crushing that car at all. Like it's not like I'm either experiencing that full time or for one insane rip. Like it's not getting crushed.
The 5-cylinder is so cool. It's so
what's going on there. And I think for me, it's probably gonna be my one wild ride because. 5-cylinder up front, that much power, that year. It's probably not the best driving car of the three. In fact, it might be the worst. Just an educated guess because of there's going to be all that weight up front. I'm sure the weight distribution is pretty heavy up front. But I gotta know what that car is like to drive. I gotta hear that 5-cylinder. I gotta feel that torque steer that's I'm sure still remaining up in those wheels in the front. But gotta experience that. Gotta sit in those green seats. Gotta sit in those green seats.
I'm going to. This is the origin of that 5-cylinder. It's a Volvo engine.
Oh, it's a Volvo.
Yeah, remember when Volvo had the 5-cylinder? Their 2.5 5-cylinder that was in like the S40 and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where it's from. That makes sense.
That's just even continuing to add to the cool factor.
Yeah, that is cool. Although now I'm worried about the reliability of my new daily.
You locked it in now. You locked it in.
Oof.
That's definitely, oh man. So yeah, so that's my one wild ride car. And I'm going to have to marry one of these two cars. And I feel like the 3rd gen is the easy choice, except for one thing, and that's the suspension. It was the big
what are you,
error in its ways. It was really hard. Hard
you're
ride.
Getting soft.
So that would be my one like consideration. But you know what? That's the car I'm marrying. And that's not because I have a terrible version of my driveway. It's because it's all-wheel drive. We live here in upstate New York. I live here in upstate New York. I could daily that all year round and have a ball in the winter. It'd probably end up rusting, but like I could totally do that.
That would be awesome. Put some snow tires on that thing.
Put some snow tires, and now I'm roasting my snow tires, but not too bad because it's in the snow and I'm drifting around and all that. So I could absolutely see owning that car and dailying it and driving it all the time. So I'm gonna have to crush the 1st gen, which I still really like a lot. I'm curious about how that car is, but
hard L on the 1st gen there. Poor guy.
The MK2 is like the standout. It totally is a standout. It's the easy choice. You've got to get behind the wheel on that car one way or another. So now you got to choose between the other two. And I think realistically, the 3rd gen, it is, it's 4 doors. I can use that car every single day. Every single day.
Sounds like you need to get one.
I really want one. I'm not going to lie.
I will say, take a look at that Mark 1 interior on the RS because it is like prime early 2000s bad. It's bad. It's got all the shiny leather.
Oh, man. How does it compare to your SVT? Was it a lot of the same materials, it looks like, and a lot of the same layout?
No, it's exactly the same, except you get like pedal covers and a different shift knob and lever. And you get what actually looks like worse seats, because I remember the seats I had the Recaros in my SVT and they were amazing, and they're just all black, great seats. And this has Sparkos, which seems like a downgrade. And they also just like don't look as like grippy. Although they do seem to have like some Alcantara. They do have some Alcantara, but they don't look as good. I'll be honest.
Interesting. All right. So what do you all think? Did we choose right, or was the 1st generation the actual car to marry long term, even though it has Sparkos as opposed to
the downgrade? The
downgrade in the seat department. Let us know down below. I'll say this. I'll end on this. I remember a Motor Trend Lambo versus that generation Focus RS, but as opposed to the drivetrain that's in there, they ripped it out and put a V8 and a Mustang drivetrain into it, real drive. What? It was a Lambo versus Focus with a V8 and a real drive. I love that article. I'll pull that up sometime.
You need to send that to me.
Yeah. Let us know down below, though. What would you have chosen?
Yeah, what's your picks, guys? What's your picks?
So finishing this episode out, let's spill the tea on Le Mans and the results. It was
Le Mans.
The Le Mans.
I love that Le Mans race.
That Le Mans race overseas. I feel like the coverage in the States was higher than normal, or there was a little bit of a buzz around it for a couple different reasons. We'll get to the results in a moment. I'd say one of the main reasons was they got them NASCARs god dang over there racing up in the layman's race. No, if you didn't catch it, NASCAR did bring a car to competition. It wasn't there to race competitively. Of course it wasn't. It was a NASCAR. No, it was there, I think, for two main reasons. What I've read on this was they're kind of testing the next gen race car, which is obviously, you can do anywhere. You don't need to do this at Le Mans. But I also think that it was also for marketing.
Yeah,
right? And I think that's a smart marketing idea. You bring a Camaro, goddamn America, over to Europe, and yeah, you get to drive it around. And I'm
you
sure
said this was the next gen car, because I thought the Camaro was discontinued in general, like the production Camaro.
Well, that's a great point. So in the article it says that this was a test bed for NASCAR's next gen chassis.
Okay, so I guess the body doesn't really matter.
Yeah, like it hasn't for decades. The body means little to nothing. Who knows? Maybe Chevys become Corvettes in the future. Probably not. And they'll probably become, I don't know, the Blazer. Are we going to have a SUV?
They will be Blazers. Oh my! Just like there's a Toyota Camry racing around a NASCAR track.
Yep. There's going to have Chevy's going to put a Blazer out there. Who knows? But yeah. So for those of you that don't know too much about NASCAR, typically, the bodies. There's very little difference. I think they're trying to create a little bit more of a difference.
And it was for a while. It was just the same body.
Unibody. I think it's becoming a little bit more unique than it used to be. It used to just be stickers. That was the only difference between them. It was that was it. But yeah, they were really just trying to test out their new next gen car, while also doing, I think, a marketing stunt, which is kind of cool. Seeing that car, a NASCAR go around.
It is crazy. There's a photo of it packed in with the rest of the
There's gonna be
the starting grid, and it's crazy.
And reels all around, like seeing a Camaro passing all these Euro cars with like Freebird going on the background. It's cool. It's cool. But more importantly, and I'd say more historically, Ferrari came back to Le Mans after a hiatus of close to 50 years. I think it was like 48 years and change that they had been away from Le Mans.
Well, that's huge. That's huge.
And they came back, and their first year back, they win. And they win on the 100th anniversary of the race. So a historic race, a historic comeback. And Rob, my question to you is this why Ferrari is so slow in F1? Because they used all their great engineers for the Le Mans team? Like, come on, like what's going on
all
here?
The money and engineering went in Le Mans.
They come in out of nowhere and just and I think they went 1-2 in Le Mans, and it's an impressive feat.
No, it is. It's super surprising, especially since what we've been watching for the last 5 years in F1 is Ferrari. Getting whooped by Mercedes and now by Red Bull as well. And I mean,
and even potentially Aston Martin, like they're just, they've been just kind of floundering towards the front, but just never really putting it together.
Yeah. I don't think at any point anyone was really thinking they're going to win in recent memory. And so, it is amazing to see them come right into Le Mans, which they haven't been at. They have no experience with endurance racing in recent years, and to just win like that is something else. Yeah.
I would never guess that. I know in a different category, this is the ultimate category, I believe it's called. Like the top category is the category that Ferrari won. Ford wanted to go back and win, I think it was 50 years after their first win with the Ford GT, and that's why they developed the third gen Ford GT the way they did. That was a race car for the streets, the way the shape is and that sort of thing. They designed that car to go back and win, but it wasn't it wasn't the top category. Obviously, you don't drive those cars on the street. There are no road going versions of those. They are a spec class race car. So it's just cool when companies target this. I wish there was a car that went along with this category of car, because you'd have these supercars that had like these road going versions of these ultimate
the homologation cars. Of these center seaters
would be absolutely insane.
Wild. That would be wild. I mean, it's exciting to see Ferrari just get back in it and like put that spend into it. You know, back in the racing,
and they look great too. The cars look awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful race car for sure.
It's Ferrari.
Ferrari. They know how to do it. They always look good.
Yeah, but it is a super impressive feat for them just to be able to jump right back in, and it leaves you wondering, hey, do we want to just like can the entire team and just move the Le Mans? I mean, they're not going to do that, but what did they get so right with this team and designing it, and can they bring that into F1? Yeah,
I feel like Le Mans is maybe just less competitive than F1. I think would be my thought on the matter. Is you've got less money getting pumped into.
What are you trying to say about Toyota, Rob? They've been winning since 2017. What are you just saying? They haven't had any true competition?
I think they just haven't had. Yeah, maybe they haven't had any real competition. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's tough for automakers to put money into racing now. I feel like you have a lot more like logic-driven companies. I mean, a company like Ferrari, it was like made around racing. Like that was why it existed. Like that's why Lotus existed, was for racing. And there is nothing like that anymore. Every one of those companies have nothing to do with racing. Like they're not, the company isn't there because they want to go racing, because they're passionate about racing. The company is there because it has shareholders and owners that are making money off of a product to sell to customers. And so it's you don't, you know, it used to be about passion that we would go racing, and that's why, you know, Ferrari versus Ford and that type of stuff, like it was a grudge. It was we're spending money because I want to beat this guy, not because we think we're going to get a return on our ad spend. And now that's what it is. Now it's like, do we get a return on our ad spend? If we spend, you know, $500 million to go race at Le Mans, are we going to see that as a return in sales? So, you know, knowing that, I guess it means more to me to see that they went back to get back in Le Mans, because it isn't just like a whim. It's okay. This has value for our brand. Yeah. You know, and it's nice to see racing have that importance in marketing and in car culture.
For sure. The one other thing that I'd say, going back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, what these brands represent, and, you know, what they're doing, you know, they're just making money for shareholders, essentially. You know, Ferrari, I think they make more in like apparel and other things than selling cars these days. The one other thing that I will say, though, about Ferrari is it also represents the pride of Italy. Come on, man. Like the pride of Italy.
You are correct. It does. It does.
It is a cult over there.
Italy stands alone, fighting against, you know, Euro 7 new emission standards, and they're like, wait, hold up, you're gonna put all of our, you know, Lamborghini and Ferrari out of business with this crap. But Italy does have that. I mean, this might be one for another episode. There's I believe there's like a whole scandal with whoever's in charge of the environmental like department of their government, is that he used to be on the payroll for like Lamborghini or Ferrari or something like that. And like this guy, if you look at his career, it doesn't take you 5 seconds to realize he doesn't give a crap about the environment. That one's pretty funny. That's one for another episode. Italy as a country is definitely like, you know, Ferrari is important to their heritage, you know, just like Ford is important to America's heritage.
Yeah. The other thing that I will say, going back to the race overall, it was really cool seeing the new C8 race car. You know, Corvette has a lot of history, you know, racing in Europe and Le Mans, and you know the iconic yellow Corvettes have raced all over the place. It was really cool seeing the race spec of the C8.
So is that what class would that be? GT3? Is that?
I believe it's
GT
the
class?
the LM GTE class, and they won it.
Oh, that's cool.
It looks like I'm reading through this real quick. For the last 25. Yes, yeah, it looks like they won the LM GTE class.
Okay, got it.
So, and it's they won.
Yeah. Okay,
awesome,
and that's all your other.
car too.
That's Porsche GT3s out in the field. Probably like Ferrari 296 GTBs right now, I would think. That type of stuff.
Yeah. So, really cool car there. Yeah, and I'd say I jumped in the broadcast at the very end, and it felt more like an F1 race than I was expecting. It wasn't all the same people at all or anything like that, but it was probably like the same broadcasting company. Sky Sports, I believe, is what I'm watching both on. So there's some familiarity there. But I'm wondering, I'm willing to bet, I should say, Le Mans is probably seeing an increase from viewership that's rubbing off from F1. You know, I never paid any attention to either. And there is some crossover too. You know, Ferrari's obviously, and a lot of these companies are involved in both. But you also had a driver for Ferrari, Antonio Giovinazzi, and he was an F1 driver for a number of years. When I first started watching Drive to Survive, you know, episode 1 or season 1, and I think season 2, he was driving for Alfa Romeo at the time. So it's cool to even just see a name that I'm familiar with pop up as
on the grid, and you've got those familiar characters essentially.
Yeah.
I think I saw I think it's Amazon. I think there is basically Drive to Survive, but for Le Mans. And I think that's airing on Amazon, and I think it's the same producers that did Drive to Survive. But there you go. There's your next watch.
Yeah, I'll mark it down. You said it was on? Was it Netflix?
No. I think it's on Amazon.
Amazon. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, I think we're probably going to start seeing more and more content like Drive to Survive because of its success.
Yeah.
And and it's obvious that F1's seeing the success, but I'm willing to bet that, you know, somebody at Le Mans is like, we need to capitalize on this. We need to start doing a yearly series about this race. You know, look at how successful Drive to Survive is, or honestly, I could even see, you know, if Drive to Survive needs to mix it up a little bit, maybe they start going after other series and they start doing seasons following other things as well. So they have like F1 as a season, and they do a season that's just like not necessarily like a direct season. Obviously, you know, you want to keep Formula One separate, but you do a season or a one-off episode doing Le Mans.
Le Mans or NASCAR even. I mean, there's there's a lot of way to like more humanize those stories, and I feel like every sport needs its heroes. And you know, I mean, you talk sports like, you know, football with anybody, you just the whole time you're just talking about people, you know, and characters, and you like this guy, you don't like that guy, and you know, I think sometimes that gets lost in racing because it's car versus car, manufacturer versus manufacturer, but you know, really people just want peoples and the story and the gossip and the personalities. So
yeah, for sure. Well, cool. Well, let us know, did you see or hear anything about Le Mans? And what did Ferrari's team get so right that with the Le Mans team that the F1 team just did not.
Yeah, how'd they do that first time
speculate.
back?
Yeah,
what they do speculation on that.
Is it just because there's only like 4 cars in the category and there's really not that much competition? Is that really what's going on? No, it was driving Jesus. It was Antonio Giovinazzi leading the way.
What a guy!
Hilarious.
What a guy!
What a guy! Leading the way for Ferrari, leading the promised land and getting the dub. Cool. Anything else to add on your end, Rob, before we finish up?
I got nothing. Just to thank our loyal listeners out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you all for listening. And if you're enjoying the series, share with a friend. And just thanks a lot for listening. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Till next week.
See ya.